Welcome to the Mindset Architect podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with Rethink Coaching.
Welcome to the Mindset Architect podcast, episode number 68. I'm Tony Caliendo, Master Coach here at Rethink Coaching. And as always, just want to thank you for joining and sharing your time with me. Time's our most valuable gift. And the fact that you're sharing yours with me does not go unnoticed. So I appreciate you all being here. Today, I am really a fortunate human being. I have an awesome co-podcaster with me. Bunny Terry is here to join us. And truly, it's a privilege to have you with us, Bunny. I really appreciate you giving me your time. So welcome.
Oh, well, you're more than welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. I'm going to quick share your bio so people just kind of know who you are and then where we're going to go with the podcast. So Bunny Terry is a Santa Fe, New Mexico real estate professional broker, as well as the New Mexico native, which is awesome. She's the founder of the Bunny Terry Santa Fe real estate team and runs the Bell Tower Real Estate Group. What she's known for, and I've got to witness this firsthand, is client-focused, concierge-level approach. She's really done an amazing job building a thriving practice, prioritizes community collaboration and exceptional service. Author of an inspiring book, Lifesaving Gratitude, which chronicles her journey as a stage 4 colon cancer survivor and her commitment to living with purpose. In addition to her real estate work, Bunny is the host of her very own popular podcast, I Love New Mexico, where she shares her love for the land of enchantment and its vibrant culture. As the past board chair of the Cancer Foundation for New Mexico, Bunny has played a significant role in supporting local cancer patients and their families. Her passion for giving back and her dedication to her community are central to everything she does. I love this, Bunny. Bunny's favorite line is borrowed from her father. If life were any better, I'd have to be 2 people. I love that. So did he say that a lot?
He did. And in fact, that's part of what, I wrote the book. I write 1,000 words a day as part of my meditation and practice. And when we went back and looked at everything I had written, most of it was about my dad calling me and saying, "What are you grateful for?" And I would say, "Dad, I'm like in the middle of this, the biggest challenge of my life, I think, trying to get over the stage 4 cancer. And I don't feel very grateful." And I'd say, "How are you?" And he'd say, again, what he's always said, even when he didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. If I were any better, I'd have to be 2 people. So it's something I've heard. I did hear. I lost my dad last year, but seemed like every day of my life growing up, even when my dad was a farmer. It's not the response you would have expected from somebody in his place. So,
but it's a great example, I think, for all of us. And sometimes it's the really simple examples that have the most meaning. So one of the reoccurring themes. So Bunny had filled out a questionnaire for me about what we're going to talk about today. And one of the reoccurring themes, Bunny, that I hear over and over in both what you shared with me and just getting to witness you in life here in New Mexico is the power of gratitude. And, you shared a little bit, and we're going to get into it, your stage 4 colon cancer journey. But what is it about gratitude that is so important to you? What makes it such an important part of how you function?
Well, first of all, I was really fortunate to, as I said, live with both my parents were always sort of focused on what they had instead of what they didn't have. And so it was already ingrained. And I thought before I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, I thought that was how I lived, that I did my best to be aware and joyful and mindful of the short period of time that we get to live on the earth and how important it is that we spend it in a way that where we express some level of gratitude or kindness or joy on a regular basis. But it wasn't until I was diagnosed that I found out that I wasn't actually, I had it in my head, but I wasn't practicing it. And so it's one thing, I think, to say to yourself, "Oh, I'm really an optimistic person. I'm really a grateful person." But you sort of have to get your back against the wall and have no other path forward other than deciding to actively pursue gratitude and express it. And so, I work really hard at not being toxically positive. I know there are lots and lots of people who don't, and I was one of them, who don't feel grateful all the time. But what I've discovered is that if you really make that choice, it changes outcomes. I mean, that's why it's important to me. I think it changed my outcome. I mean, I want to be careful. I don't want to say that somebody else who has a similar diagnosis who doesn't express gratitude may or may not survive. This is just what worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really important. I've had this conversation before in some programs that we're taking together is I love the power of gratitude for a lot of reasons, exactly what you stated. And also neurologically, it's impossible to be in a negative space and express gratitude. You just can't. I mean, it lights you up completely differently. It changes the energy within and then without. And so I love that you said something really important, and I don't want people to miss it. A lot of us will say, we practice gratitude, we do this stuff, but we don't really do it. In our minds, we think we are, but we're really not actively participating in it. And you were put in a position that you made a decision that you were going to become active in expressing and enjoying the gratitude moment. So I think that's important to kind of walk the talk, because it's easy to say, oh, I'm grateful, and to not really grasp what it really means. Sometimes, I shared this with you, sometimes when you get in a space and you just can be grateful that you have air to breathe, you have to sometimes just bring it down to the, to the nitty gritty.
And Tony, that was so I was led kicking and screaming to the practice of gratitude, because I lived away from my parents, and I was here in Santa Fe, and they were about 3 hours away, and they're elderly. I didn't want them having to live here with me while I was sick. And my parents would call every night to get an update on how things went. And every night my dad would say, well, tell me what you're grateful for. And I would say, Dad, I'm just not. I mean, I'm slowly losing my hair. I feel like crap all the time. My fingernails are peeling apart. I'm tired. I can't get off the couch. I can't even lift my computer some days to do my work. And he would say, I'm pretty sure you can think of something. I would say, did you just hear me?
You didn't hear that.
But I had, like my dad, I'm a list maker. And I always carry and I'm also a writer, so I always carry a little notebook in my book. And at the time I had this little red spiral notebook, and he would say, take out your notebook, because he knew me. He said, take out your notebook and write down 2 things. And I was like, okay. And, in the beginning, it was like that I have a full prescription of Ambien, and that my gut is not as bad yesterday as it was, or today as it was yesterday. I mean, it really started, and he would only say 2 things. He would say, just write down 2 things. You can tell me tomorrow night what they are. And I was just like, oh. I mean, I really would cover my eyes. I would be like, Dad, really? I mean, did you know my doctor said I have 12 months to live? He said, oh, well, we're not going to believe that. Just write it down. And so, kicking and screaming to the practice of writing things down.
And he held you accountable, because you're going to follow up the next night with you.
He did hold me accountable. He did. And I'm forever grateful for that.
It's an amazing story, and I'm grateful that it worked. So kudos.
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of great care, and a lot of people taking care of me. So there were a lot of things to be grateful for in that moment. And now I get to live this life that is beyond anything I ever imagined.
Just so awesome. And so 2 things I want to highlight. And, you are incredibly involved in the community and volunteering. I talked to Reagan, who is on your team as one of your agents, and he shares all the stuff that you're doing. And have you always been like that, or is it something that came out of your journey?
Well, I've always been, not only did I grow up in a family where people were always looked at what they had instead of what they didn't have, but they were also really all about giving back. And, they were volunteer EMTs and volunteer firemen, and, they were involved in their church. And, my mom was the first one who showed up, as all of our moms were, in the 60s and 70s, the first one who showed up with a casserole or soup, or my dad was the guy who would always help people if their car was broken down, stuff like that. So that's sort of ingrained, but I never did it at this level. I what happened is that after I got through with treatment and surgery and some more treatment and got through and got a no evidence of disease report from my surgeon, I got involved. I was really, this is in the book that I wrote. After going through that and having that be the big focus, getting well was this huge driver in my life. And when that was over, I was really depressed. You would think that somebody who had survived that sort of a diagnosis would be euphoric, but I didn't really know what to do with myself anymore. I had just spent months, over a year focused on just getting through the day in front of me. And when that was over, and when I'm sorry, when I stopped being the star of my own soap opera, I didn't quite know what to do with myself. And so I started reading about what cancer survivors do. And I saw that there was an organization based in DC that was called Fight Colorectal Cancer. And they were having some gathering in DC to lobby for changes in laws. And they had a scholarship. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll apply. I have no intention of winning it. And if I do, I don't have money for airfare. I mean, this is not going to work out anyway. Well, I got like a month later, I got a note that I had been chosen, and I had really been slogging through every day. I mean, I was working and I was doing a lot of writing and a lot of online digital marketing for different people. And that was how I was supporting myself, because I really wasn't well enough. I didn't have energy enough to get back into real estate full time. And I went to this event. People helped me, and I did a GoFundMe, and I got together the money to go to DC. And it was so powerful to be in a room of people who were just like me, many of whom didn't survive past the year that I met them at that event. But these were all people who were like, I'm getting outside of myself and I'm giving away my time and my energy. And the focus is no longer on how sad I am and how grateful I am that I finally survived. And that was so powerful to be involved that I knew then that the best way for me to make sense of what had happened and this diagnosis that I thought I was the healthiest person in the world. And I got this crazy diagnosis, and it helped me make sense of it. And it also was so powerful to take the focus off of myself and put it somewhere else.
Yep. Yeah. Then it's funny. Reagan's mom, my mother-in-law, always says, if you're having a pity party for yourself, go volunteer, and you will really have gratitude pretty quickly, because usually you're in a different position than the person you're helping. And so I think that's really important. And to acknowledge, I mean, you went through a pretty major situation, and then when it's over, it's like, now what? Because I'm sure at some point you weren't sure if it was going to be over with you still being here. And so it's a lot to take in a process. So I love that you give back a lot for a lot of different reasons, but it does keep us in check. It keeps us in check about how fortunate we are.
I think that, now, and this is not probably the most popular stance for me to take, given that a lot of people suffer with these sorts of diagnoses, but I really think that my cancer diagnosis was the best. It made me such a better person. It was really one of the best things that ever happened to me.
And it's a great reframe on it, right? And it was a good life lesson. And and I think the cool thing about that, and why you can say that, is that it didn't go unnoticed, right? It really was the catapult for you to change how you get to live your life. Where a lot of people would be just like, it's over, let's go, and go back to what they were doing before. But you took from it a great lesson and moved forward with it. So I think that's a really valuable awareness as well for other people that have been through something similar, of what is the lesson in it? How is it going to change your life and show up a little bit differently? So yeah, that's pretty cool. So there's this other part of your life that I love, and that's the really talented broker that you are. And again, I get to watch you in action because Reagan's on your team. And I've always admired you from afar, both when we were at KW and then now we are living in the same city. And so I admire what you've done. And for those who don't know, Bunny runs a really powerful team here in Santa Fe. And as you know, I've coached real estate agents and teams for over 14 years. And I get to see the inner workings of what you're doing. And you are probably the most generous team lead that I've ever met in all of my years of coaching team leads. In fact, I refer to you often now with the other clients that I coach. And, I don't know if that's just who you are by nature or how that came about, maybe from your experience, but talk to me a little bit about when you decided it was time to have a team and how you've gone on this journey, because I know firsthand, it's not easy to build a team. It's not an easy journey.
Well, so I actually had a team before that
Okay.
was not successful. And I think part of that was that I was, rather than choosing to have a team, I was at Keller Williams, and that's certainly a big focus of some brokerages, is to create teams to create more revenue. And I in 2019, I had a team of 4 brokers besides me, and an assistant and a marketing person. And it made me crazy. And part of the reason it made me crazy was that I don't think at that point in time I knew why I wanted a team. So we went through 2019. I had somebody on the team who didn't particularly work out very well, and we parted ways, not positively. And then we got to the end of 2019, and I said to everybody, I said, you know what? I'm going to have to take this apart. You're all talented brokers. I obviously was not prepared to do this. And thank goodness I did that, Tony, because we all know what happened in March of 2020. I dismantled my team. I helped a couple of the people who were on the teams go ahead. I paid their dues for 2020 because it felt like it was just the right thing to do. And then I thought, I got to figure out what I'm going to do here. And in 2020, we shut down. And so it wasn't until last year in June when I moved to a different brokerage and created what was called a marketing group within that brokerage. I'm at Real Broker. And the longer we were in office space together, and at the time there were only 3 or 4 of us in the office space together, the more I thought, now, given the life experience I have now, I think I know how to help people be successful.
Yeah.
And I had a young man who had been my assistant before at Keller Williams, like 8 years ago. And he had an interest in real estate, and that's Adam. And he said, and I said, I'm thinking that we could create a team, the 2 of us, and I could help you learn the business more than you knew before, just as my assistant. And I think you could be a phenomenal success.
Yep.
I can just mentor you. And then, about 6 months later, Reagan and I were hanging out, and we were talking about him being part of the marketing group. And he said, I'd really like to be on your team. And I was like, are you serious? Because I would really love to have you on my team. So some parts of it, Tony, were not accidental. I mean, nothing's an accident, but coincidental.
Yeah.
And now I see it. It's always been my goal for the people that are on my team, certainly this time around, and it was before. I didn't have a clear path before, but this time around, this is not that I want to gather up, 12 or 15 brokers so that my GCI will be bigger. It's so that their lives will be changed in ways that they didn't even foresee before. Adam last year at this time had a gig job, and they were sort of getting by, but not particularly, not in the way that they are now. Yeah. And he just got back from a trip where he took his family to Japan. And I'm like, this is so amazing. I mean, to me, that's why you have a team.
Yeah.
So that you can mentor people and you can learn how to be a better leader. I mean, I really focused between 2020 and now, I read every book I could get my hands on about leadership and what real leaders do. And, took a million courses while we were shut down. And I thought at some point, maybe I'll get to put this to work. And here we are.
Here you are. And I think that's, I've coached teams that have come to me that we have dismantled and then rebuilt the exact same reason that you said. There's a lot of pressure sometimes from a brokerage to grow a team. And sometimes, I know this is shocking, because I can say this because I'm an agent since 2001. Sometimes there's a little bit of ego to be able to say, I got 5 people on my team. And those are all the wrong reasons to build a team. Yet sometimes that's how it unfolds. And so you flipping this around and taking the approach of, it's not about you. It's about creating the space for people to grow into their best version of themselves financially. And if they really have a desire to be an agent, I think really is part of the secret sauce of growing an effective team. And I will tell you, just from walking into your office and of course, talking to Reagan, and I know Adam and the whole group, there is a real sense of community there. It's not the typical, even on teams you see where people are closed off. I'm not going to share. I got to outperform you. I got to be the number one agent on the team. Get out of the way. It's a really cool community. And I don't even know if you know this, but there was a weekend that Reagan was doing an open house and Adam had done an open house the weekend before, and he forgot to bring the signs back to the office. So Reagan called him and we had a few signs to do. It was no big deal. Adam went and put his signs out for him. Reagan didn't ask. There was no conversation about it, but Reagan went to put the signs out that he did have. And he called me and goes, "You're not going to believe this, but Adam put out the signs." I'm like, "Of course I believe it, because that's the culture that you have created." So I think that's really an important, and I don't know if you even knew that. I think that's an important.
I didn't.
So you just don't see that as often. And so I think, a lot of people look at numbers and GCI and units and where they rank in MLS and miss the culture community part. And that's the glue that holds everybody together. So you've done a great job, whether you are consciously aware of it or not. You're crushing it.
Well, I also think that if you're going to do this, you better be having some fun. I mean,
Yes.
This is being a realtor is grueling work at times.
Yeah.
And so you better love the people you're working with, and you better be having some fun. And I just think if we're going to talk about collaboration instead of competition, then we have to live it.
Yep.
And what a great way to live it with these people who are really determined not just to succeed on their own, but to help their teammates succeed. I can't believe that I get to be the leader of these people.
Awesome.
I'm so thrilled.
Yeah, it gets what you attract. You attract your likeness, right? And so you're attracting that. And I think the other cool part about this is Real Brokerage is amazing. And part of it is the collaboration, not competition. And part of it is work hard and be kind. And, people, there's a broker for everybody, but you've found a perfect match. You found the match that matches, what you want to do. And it's in alignment with the brokerage, which I think is really also an important part about it, because you're not on an island. You're really connected to something that you're very congruent with. So it's showing up, which I love. And the success is showing up. And so that's part of what I wanted to ask you as well is, I remember I got my license in 2001, and I can remember several things I did that I was like, what were you thinking? What was like the one thing you did that you're like, oh my God, I should, my biggest mistake was this, or my biggest learning was this. And then conversely, what was and I think you've already shared it. What do you wish you would have done sooner?
I would say the biggest mistake I made, and I know there are people who are really successful at buying leads, but I early on bought leads and through a company that, I'm happy to name if you want me to, but through a company that, created a website. And I spent in a year when I didn't have it to spend, but luckily, I had this somebody who believed in me who said, and that was my husband. And he said, okay, let's try this for a year. We made this decision, and I paid that year about $28,000. It was over $2,000 a month, which was big money for me. And it was when I just had one person on that team that I was growing at Keller Williams. And we got one closing out of that, and we worked those leads. Now so to me, the big mistake was forgetting that where I got the most traffic and my funnel was not from paid leads. It was from networking and taking care of my sphere and being really present with people I already knew who already trusted me. So to me, that was the biggest mistake I made, was throwing money at leads when I already had them. It just wasn't, your best leads come from your best leads. Sherrod says that all the time.
And he's right? The best lead you have is the one you create for yourself. And, being dependent upon an external source for your leads is a really helpless and really not a good position to be in. And I coach to not buying leads because I don't think you need to.
Right.
And, I don't care what, and people can get mad at me for saying this, but I don't care what they say. That one lead is going to a million different agents, and it's really just speed of who gets back and luck of the draw. And the quality of the leads are so diluted that when you mix that into all of the other agents getting the same lead, it's really hard to convert. It really is. And I love what you said. If you just turn your attention to your best leads comes from your leads and focus on that, you're going to be fine.
And I also would have become, I was already really good at this because I was doing digital marketing for other people, but I would have been a little more focused on my social media presence. It has paid off. Now I've been in this particular market for 12 years. And I was a realtor for 10 years before that, but I would have been a little more serious about it. Everybody around me was like, oh, that's just hoodoo. That's not going to get you any. And I'm like, no, I now have people who get in touch with me and say, I feel like you're my best friend. I've been following you for years and I couldn't wait to meet you in person. So I would have focused a lot more on that in the beginning. I felt like that was a mistake.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think we were kind of the, we're about the same age. And I remember when Facebook first came out and one of my team members was on it. And this scared me away from social media for a long time. The poor guy is one of my buyer's agents posted that he was at a movie and one of his clients jumped him. It's like, well, I'm glad to see that you can spend time going to a movie and not helping me find a home. Wow. And I was like, oh my God. So I shied away from social media for a long time as well. And then I realized that was just a one-off. But I think what you do well and what Johanna, your ops person, a marketing person does so well, is you do create somewhat of an intimate relationship via social. Like people feel like they really know you, your favorite spots, your love for the city, your love for real estate, it all shows through. So I think that's really great advice. And then the not paying for leads is brilliant advice. And I wish we could stop doing that as a profession because it's challenging. So if I was an agent right now, who, let's be honest, 2024, statistically has been our most challenging year as real estate professionals, from units being down overall. We had a lot of things going on with National Association of Realtors. And I know you chose to make the market, not let the market make you, which is brilliant because you guys have had a great year this year. What advice would you give to an agent who's struggling right now and kind of focusing on all of the stuff that's not in our favor right now?
I think you've got to, you really do have to give some attention to people who have already put their trust in you. Here's a great example. I had a call yesterday from somebody who was a former client of mine, and I've stayed in touch with them and they get emails from me. And when we have a party at the office or when we do something, I always, but I don't individually reach out to them all the time. And I just about 3 weeks ago. So I always think if somebody comes to mind, that's my signal that I should call them. Yep. And in fact, I tell them that. So I call my client's name is Daphne. And I said, Daphne, you were just on my mind and it felt like this was the day I needed to call you. And she said, I'm so glad because Brent's having his surgery today. And I was like, I didn't realize that was happening, but we visited, and these are clients that I love, but I don't see them every month or I probably see them once a year. And that day, after I knew they had the surgery, I fixed some soup like my mom would have done. We dropped it off. Johanna dropped it off at their house when Toby and I were leaving on a vacation. And today he called me.
Wow.
He called me yesterday and I didn't call him back because I got busy. And I finally called him back just now. And he said, well, I have a friend who's a financial planner in Houston. She's got a client who wants to move here. And that's just an example of how picking up the phone and calling somebody and saying, I was thinking of you. How are you doing? Don't say I'm checking in. We all agree that you're not, people don't want to hear that you're checking in, but people do want to hear that you're curious about their world. And that has happened to me so many times. So if you're struggling now, and Craig and I, Craig is in our marketing group, we were just having this conversation. He said, how do I reach out to all of my former clients? And I said, Craig, you just have to decide that every day you're going to call a minimum of 5 people that are in your database or that you did business with 5 years ago or Craig's a relatively new realtor. So he's about 5 years ago is when he began. But even if I say this to Adam, who is a brand new realtor, all you have to do is, so it's two things that happen. Your client or your friend or somebody who's a professional in town who needs to know that you were thinking of them and that you want to have coffee or lunch, or you have to reach out and make a contact of some sort, because action begets action, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yes. And we forget that, we sit and we're like, I don't know what am I going to do? Let me create one more e-blast. It's like, no. People want to hear your voice. They want to know that you're a live person. And here's what they want to know. They want to know that they can trust you, and they want to know that you're competent. But first they have to know that they can trust you. So it is, I hate the words back to basics because we've all worn them out, but it really is, this is a contact sport.
Yeah, 100%.
It is.
It's always been a toe-to-toe, belly-to-belly, eye-to-eye business. And I think, like a lot of other industries, we've become dependent upon hiding behind the phone because it's quicker, and, texting or direct messaging or,
right.
And it's become a little depersonalized. And I think that all of that is great. And I always advise my clients, use it and then transfer from a text or a direct message as quickly as you can to an in-person, as quickly as you can. A phone call, cup of coffee, invite them to a party, just be human. And they're your greatest source of referrals. They're your greatest support system. I always say they're little walking billboards for you, as long as they do know that you care about them and that you're competent. There you go.
There's one more thing I want to say is and we're hearing this more and more, but I really am a big believer in handwritten notes. And I did this in the beginning. I just sent 10 notes a day. I just wrote, this is what I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't have any clients. Yep. So I sent out, I would just get in the tax records. I would send 10 notes a day, and I would send a thank you note. And I would say, thanks for taking time to read this. First I did my neighborhood. I live in your neighborhood and I really love this area, and I'm a realtor and I am interested in knowing about you. And if you're ever curious about the value of your house, let's talk. And invariably once a month, and I would put a card in there, no pressure. And invariably once a month, somebody would say, I found your card in our junk drawer and we're now going to relocate, et cetera, or my cousin needs to move to town, et cetera. And handwritten notes really work. I just got a call the other day from somebody on the historic East Side that has a home in the millions, and they got a handwritten note from me last week. And they said, yeah, we need to visit.
It's so powerful. It really is. And, we get hung up on what are we going to say? How are we going to do it? I always say, go to Target. Go to the dollar store. What are you going to do? Just get some stationery. It doesn't have to be embossed. It doesn't have to be crayon. It doesn't have to be this fabulous quality. It's the art of the handwritten note that shows up and makes people feel special. Statistically, we know when you sift through your mail, the first pieces of mail you open are the ones that are handwritten.
Yep.
They just are, and I know I do the same thing. I think that's great advice, Bunny. And it is kind of a lost art, but my gosh, 5 to 10 notes a day takes no time. Takes no time at all.
No, and if you're having a bad year, you're not doing much else. So write calls for people.
Yes, that's awesome. So, Bunny, ask you the last question. If I wanted to get a hold of you to buy, sell, or invest, or I just wanted to be part of your world, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, I am always happy for people to email me, and it's easy, bunny@bunnyterry.com. And give me a call if you want. I want, and I would love for any realtor out there who's trying to figure out how to make things work, or feels discouraged. I've been in all those places, and give me a call. Let's have a conversation. That's just easy. Can I give people my phone number here?
If you're comfortable doing it, do it.
I am. It's 505-504-1101. And my website, the one where people can most quickly find me, is ilovesantafehomes.com. And it's homes, plural, but ilovesantafehomes.com. And I would say, especially, of course, I'm happy to help people who want to buy a house, but I really love helping realtors. The teaching piece is so, our job is to create, is to have a positive impact on our world. And so I think that's how we can do it. You're doing it.
Yeah, no, I
Thank
appreciate that.
goodness.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you've extended that to other agents because you really do live in a space of collaboration. And I know for a fact, if anybody out there's challenged or is going through something, that a phone call to you can change everything for them. Just to get, sometimes you got to borrow somebody's belief, and you're great at loaning your belief out to people. So Bunny at bunnyterry.com, the telephone number you gave. And then also if you're looking to, because we're in 26 different countries and all over the US. So even if you're not looking to buy or sell in Santa Fe, Bunny, you're incredibly connected through Real Brokerage to talented agents across the country. So you can help people in a lot of different ways. So I just appreciate that.
I can. And I'm telling you, if you're visiting Santa Fe, my office is on Palace. It's next to the place that has a dragon on the roof. You can't miss it. So come in and have a cup of coffee. We'll have some fun.
It's a cool office. I pop in every once in a while. And it's like just great energy. So, Bunny, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your story and for being so genuinely generous to everybody that crosses your path. So I appreciate you being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.